Akim. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash. Double honors to the elder apostles of great Millstone who teach and rule well. And shalom to the sincere Akim, to brandish truth and sincerity. Shalom. In this video, I want to talk about the little testimony that I had last week, actually, concerning a colleague of mine that used his skills to deceive the government. Let me see what the better word for that is. Let me look it up quickly. Township, municipality. Yeah, I think township or something like that is most accurate, because every region, over here in the Netherlands has his own township or his own congregation, or like people that govern that city. So last week I needed something from this man, which is like a foreman, and I needed some material, so I called him up, and he said that he would come. Then it would take about between 15 and 30 minutes. So the time passed by, and then I called him again, and then he said that he had a little trouble. A problem occurred during his work, because while looking for defects within the cable network, he actually blew up a couple of lamps. Those lamps consist of the lamp itself, but also let me see what it is, like a LED driver, which governs the LED lamps. So he blew those up, and then he told me as well that he actually hoped that it would start to thunder, because then he could blame it on the thunder instead of him blowing it up with 4,000 volt on the cable. So time passed by, and eventually said that he did tell the township that it happened in that way. So the thing that I actually want to go into is the fact that these Edomites are very subtle, which that goes into being skillful to deceive. And this man was able to make sure that the company that I work for, is not to be blamed for what happened. Meanwhile, it was his own mistake, because the let me see what it is in English. The fuses were put back into the light bulb, and therefore the electricity was able to reach the lamps itself. So he was very crafty and skillful to deceive, man. And we also understand that there was the serpent in the garden that was also very subtle, who deceived Eve. This is Genesis chapter 3 and verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord Yahawah hath made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath the Most High said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. And the first thing that I want to bring out is that the serpent in the garden bears the same spirit as Esau eating the sukkah upon the earth. But before I want to go on, I want to break Genesis 3 and 1 down. So this is Genesis 3 and 1. And the first thing I want to do is I want to go into the word Satal, which in the Hebrew that's Ira 1. It says subtle, shrewd, crafty, sly, sensible, crafty, shrewd, sensible, prudent. It says cunning, usually in a bad sense. Let me see what that means. in the FEMA dictionary. It says, marked by or given to artful subtlety and deceptiveness. It says, skill in deception, gal. Skill or adeptness in execution or performance dexterity. So where it says skill in deception, deceiving someone. What does it mean to deceive someone? To cause to believe what is not true, mislead. So what this man actually did, my foreman, he made the township believe that it was because of the storm that there was too much power going through the cables, while he was working on the cables as well. You see, and he made them believe something that is not true. You see, so he was a very subtle man. So back to Genesis 3:1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord Yahawah hath made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath the Most High said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. So we understand the serpent was not an actual serpent, but he had serpent-like qualities. And he had a certain philosophy by which he was able to make Eve, he was able to persuade Eve into eating of the doctrine, you know, because the tree of the garden, you know, that's talking about eventually that Eve ate from, you know, was from the understanding that the serpent gave her, you know, because Adam and Eve, they only knew good. They were very naive. They only knew what good was. But when the serpent came, you know, he made them go through something and understand something that was evil. Therefore, they knew both good and evil. You see, and by that, you know, they went off, and therefore they sinned. But I digress a little bit, because now I want to go into how the serpent, you know, bears the same spirit that Edom has upon his earth. So these Edomites, man, they are very, very crafty, man. They are cunning, you know, skillful to deceive, which means, you know, to let people believe things that ain't true. You know, and of course, you know, me looking like an Edomite but bearing the spirit of an Israelite, growing up among these Edomites, you know, I never had that feeling that I had to be circumspect around them. But coming in this truth, understanding who they actually are, and seeing the way that they are made, you know, learning day by day, step by step, their character, which is spoken about in the scriptures, you know, it's really correct what the scripture says about them, man. Because they're very good liars, man, and they can lie in your face with a straight face. That's the beautiful thing about them, man. Even though it's wicked as shit, they lie in your face with a straight face. This is Revelation chapter 20, verse 1. And I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon, that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years. And cast him into the bottomless pit, and shut him up, and set a seal upon him, that he should deceive the nations no more, till the 1,000 years should be fulfilled, and after that he must be loosed a little season. So that dragon represents the Roman Empire that was ruled by the Edomites, the so-called white people. But they are also being referred to as that old serpent, which is the devil and Satan. And them being bound by that great chain represents them being taken out of their position, being put, you know, and chased into the Caucasus Mountain and being brought very low. And that would happen for 1,000 years, because after they would be put into that low position, then, you know, the Israelites, you know, would rule for 1,000 years in the Dark Ages. You know, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, man. but predominantly those of their southern kingdom, which are Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, which remained in the land up until that, which remained in that region, on that side of the earth in that time. And around, let's say around between 12 and 1500s, slowly but surely they came out of that low position and were able to slowly but surely get back to the position that they're in right now. But also only for a short time. But the point is, these Edomites, these so-called white people, they were the ones ruling during the Roman Empire, also the Grecians, but they were also being referred to as the devil and Satan, and they go back to that old serpent, Well, that same spirit is within them. Let me say it like that. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, and let me start at verse 5. Remember ye not that when I was yet with you I told you these things? And now ye know what withholdeth that he might be revealed in his time. This is referring to Esau. For the mystery of iniquity doth already work, only he who now letteth will let until he be taken out of the way. So these Edomites already ruled during the Roman Empire, but during that time they had to fulfill their purpose, man. And during that time, it was not necessarily revealed unto them who they were, scripturally speaking, but during that time they were already in rulership and performing their wickedness upon the earth. Verse 8, and then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord Yahawah shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. And if you read up from the first verse, before the second coming of Yahawashi, it will be revealed who these Edomites actually are. You see. But as it says in verse 8, and then shall the wicked be revealed, which is referring to Esau, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, which happens through the servants, the prophets of Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi, by using the scriptures, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming, which is referring to when Yahawashi comes back. Verse 9, even him whose coming is after the working of Satan, without power and signs and lying wonders. So it is those Edomites, those wicked upon the earth, that come in that spirit of Satan. But Revelation chapter 20 talks about how they are that old serpent, that dragon, that old serpent, the devil and Satan. So you see how these things link up, to show you that they are the same, that they bear the same spirit, so they have that same quality that the serpent had in the garden, being very crafty and skillful to deceive. Here it even talks about in verse 10, with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they received not the love of the truth that they might be saved. You see, so they're the ones that use, these evil deceptions, to persuade those that don't want to be in this truth, which eventually is going to lead to their downfall, This is Psalms. Where is it? Psalms chapter 58. Starting at verse 3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. So this is referring to Esau. And when it says they are estranged, it means that as soon as they are born, they turn aside, from the way of truth. Meaning, as soon as they be born, they turn to wickedness, man. And the Hebrew word for estranged is zawar, which means to be strange, be stranger, alienated. But if you go to the Hebrew Chaldee lexicon, it goes into especially from the way of truth and uprightness. Falsehood, lie, to tell a lie, compare, to turn from the way. So they turn from the way of righteousness to the way of wickedness. It says they go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. So from the moment they are born, that's when those lies and that wickedness, is upon them. So that was actually something that I wanted to bring out in this lesson, because it's something that I noticed and realized, man, these people are very subtle, man, very subtle. And the same spirit that was in the serpent in the garden, is in Edom in this day and age. So those are things that we have to be circumspect about and watch out for. So with that, I hope that this lesson was edifying. And with that, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Qadash. Double honors to the elder apostles who break Millstone, who teach and rule well, and shalom to the sincere Akim, spreading truth and sincerity. Shalom.